seems like a lot saying 50 months and everything like that, but it's not really a lot, not at all, bro. It's not a lot at all.
As great as his defense team was, Diddy, I think they missed the boat on his mental illness as an appeal to the judge's compassion and understanding. He admitted earlier that he was bipolar, so you need to lean into that because bipolar is exactly the behavior he exhibited.
Diddy was just sentenced to 4 years in prison, and all of his friends are now leaving him. His family walked out of the courtroom smiling, and for the first time in his life, Diddy was all alone. 50 Cent, Gene Deal, and even Cassie have all reacted to Diddy's sentence. And news that Diddy cried and begged the judge has shocked everyone. What were Diddy's last words to the judge? And is this really his end?
This was a very long sentencing hearing which Sean Combs himself, once larger than life, was left begging for mercy, standing at the defense table, telling the judge that he's a changed man, apologizing for his behavior. But that request for a lenient sentence of time served was rejected by the judge, Arun Subramanian, who said it was insufficient to send the kind of message that he wanted to send, that violence against women must be met with real accountability. And so he sentenced Sean Combs to 4 years in prison. That's not as much as federal prosecutors here wanted. They wanted 11 years in prison, reminding the judge that Sean Combs has a penchant for violence and abuse.
This sentence came almost 2 years after the raid at Diddy's mansions and the release of his f***off tapes, which revealed just how disgusting Hollywood really is. Just a few months ago, Diddy was convicted on charges of transportation across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. He was now facing almost 20 years in prison, with the defense trying to get him out on parole, while prosecutors wanted 11 years.
Sean Diddy Combs will be sentenced to 50 months in prison. That is 50 months in prison. Far less than the 11 years requested, far more than the 14 months. He will not walk out of the door behind me in the courtroom today. He will not be a free man for 50 months. The judge says, which is a little shy of 4.25 years, this is a serious sentence that reflects the gravity of your crimes and conducts. He also said this is a hard time away from your family, but also notes that Combs will have a life after prison.
Even the video of Diddy assaulting women wasn't enough to make some people stop defending him. But now, with Diddy behind bars, Cassie, his ex-girlfriend, can finally feel at peace. Before Diddy's sentencing, Cassie wrote a letter to the judge saying that she feared for her life and what Diddy would do to her if he got out. Keep in mind that almost all of the witnesses in this case were receiving calls directly from Diddy asking them to stay silent.
Cassie Ventura is moving forward. After Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced to 50 months in prison for 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution on October 3rd, his ex reacts to U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian's decision in a statement from her lawyers. The attorneys tell E! News, while nothing can undo the trauma caused by Combs, the sentence imposed today recognizes the impact of the serious offenses he committed. They add, "We are confident that with the support of her family and friends, Ms. Ventura will continue healing, knowing that her bravery and fortitude have been an inspiration to so many." Ventura was in a relationship with Combs on and off from 2007 to 2018. In addition to his over 4 years in prison, Combs was handed 5 years of supervised release and a fine of $500,000. Ahead of his sentencing, Combs, who was acquitted on sex and racketeering charges during his federal trial, expressed remorse for, quote, all of the hurt and pain he caused others through his conduct in a letter to the judge. He wrote in the filing, obtained by NBC News October 2nd, "I lost my way. I got lost in my journey, lost in the drugs and the excess."
50 Cent wrote a letter to the judge too, telling him that at several points in his life, Diddy has threatened to come after him, and he did not believe for a second that Diddy had changed. A criminal who has been engaging in violent behavior doesn't just change just because they had to spend a few months in jail.
Judge Subramanian. Now, he posts this as a text message. I don't know if this was a text message to his lawyer, where maybe he was instructing his lawyer to write this letter to the judge. If you don't know, the judge is accepting letters in the case of the sentencing of Sean P. Diddy Combs, who's set to be sentenced tomorrow. And 50 Cent decided to write his letter to the judge as well. If you don't know, at this point, I think it's abundantly clear that 50 Cent is the baby father of the child that belongs to not only 50, but the woman that is identified as Jane Doe. That woman, I think we now know, is Daphne Joy. So Daphne Joy's baby daddy is 50 Cent. So maybe there's a reason and there's some relevance here for 50 to have somewhat of a letter being sent to the judge. Why? Well, one of the two victims, or the main two victims, which is victim one, we all know is Cassie, but victim two is known as Daphne Joy. Who's Daphne Joy's baby father? 50 Cent. So he writes a letter and he says, "Dear Judge Summarian, I've had an ongoing dispute with Puffy for over 20 years. He's very dangerous. Multiple times I have feared for my life. I think you should consider the safety of the general public, Your Honor, before unleashing him upon them. There hasn't been enough time for him to reform or make any adjustments, despite his trying to teach a class in there." This is how you know he actually wrote this. This is bad grammar. Despite his, it should be despite him trying to teach a class in there. As you're already aware, the government has spent maximum amount of money on deploying federal agencies, which appear to be an army, in 2 locations simultaneously. Later, his sons, who's dealing with his own R-word allegations, claimed that the feds had hit the wrong house. Anyway, Diddy's only going to return to hiring more male workers and keep most of the baby oil away from the general public, and babies need it. My Netflix doc on this scandalous subject is coming soon.
The most shocking reaction, however, came from Diddy's own children. Before Diddy's sentencing, his children begged the judge to show their dad mercy and told him how Diddy was their superhero.
Diddy's children speak about their father at his sentencing hearing. And they honestly don't have a lot of time to say much, but they were given a little bit of time to say something. Quincy starts off by saying he's transformed. He will not jeopardize his freedom again. As his children, we wish to heal together. Next up is Diddy's son, Justin. I ask you to give my father a second chance. My father is my superhero. My father always told me to believe in God. Talk to my father every day, every other hour. Next is Christian Combs. I am the one who most resembles my pops, my mannerisms. My whole life I studied my dad up and down. He's the greatest man in the world, my superhero. He told me to treat women like a queen, and I do. I see in his eyes, as his twin, that he has changed. My name is Jessie Combs, and I am 18 years old, and she cries. When my mother passed away, I was just a little girl. I remember my dad sitting us down. It helped me survive when I just wanted my mom. My name is Chance Combs, his daughter. He's changed, and she starts crying. Sorry. He speaks with a clear mind. My name is Delilah Combs. We watch our 2-year-old sister. She cannot grow up fatherless. Honor, please. And she starts crying. Let us move forward, not as a headline, but as a family. The judge says, thank you all. This is important for me to hear.
Right after the sentencing, these same kids walked out of the courtroom smiling and laughing. There are even reports that Diddy didn't even turn to look at his kids after the sentencing. Was Diddy just using his kids to gain sympathy? Diddy thought that he could get the judge to reduce his sentence if he could somehow show him the sweet and caring side of him. Diddy's legal team produced an emotional video of him taking care of his children. At one point, Diddy's team even called him a civil rights leader, saying that he had been trying to lead the Black community and lower barriers in hip-hop. Keep in mind that hundreds of young artists have come forward saying that Diddy assaulted them. One of these artists, Aubrey O'Day, has also reacted to Diddy's sentence in a post on X saying, "Let this serve as a cautionary reminder to young and aspiring individuals pursuing their dreams. The true warning is not that a jury may doubt your testimony, nor that a court's sentencing guidelines may fail to reflect the years of suffering you endured. The real warning is this: the moment someone in a position of power oversteps your boundaries or demands more than is legitimately required of you, walk away and do not look back. No dream, however bright, can outweigh the pain and exploitation that may follow if you remain. Too often, those who misuse their power, even when exposed, face far fewer consequences than the harm inflicted upon their victims. Protect yourself at the first sign of coercion or impropriety. If something feels wrong, trust that instinct and remove yourself from the situation. Your well-being is worth more than any opportunity." Diddy and his legal team thought Diddy would be walking out today. He had even booked meetings in Miami for next week. That's how confident he was. Once Diddy realized that he wasn't going to get out anytime soon, he completely shut down and allegedly fell to his knees and started crying.
He cried a lot today. When his children were just sobbing, you could tell he was on the verge of crying when they were begging, please give my father a chance, please show my father mercy. And then he turned around, he told his kids he failed them, he cried, he turned on his mom. He said, I failed you, Mom, I cried. He kind of just exasperatedly put his head in his hands. So by the time all of that had played out and we got to the reading of the arguments or the rationale why Judge Submaranian imposed the sentence of 4 years and 2 months, he was saying things like, the statute requires a significant sentence. This evidence was massive in terms of the coercion. So when family members started to see it was going down that road, the children were stone-faced when the verdict was read. He was stone-faced. The only person who really showed emotion was Dana Tran, the mother of his youngest child. She could see it coming. She just started burying her head in her hands. So this is done. This is over. Obviously, we can expect an appeal in this case. We'll have to see what happens, where what prison he will be assigned to when he is released from MDC. But I just cannot underestimate how dense this was, because his attorneys moved from making legal arguments to making personal pleas. Even Nicole Westmoreland, a high-powered attorney from Atlanta, she started off saying what he had done for the Black community, how he broke barriers in hip-hop and hip-hop clothing and in brand partnership with his spirits industry. Then she started to speak about how he personally inspired her. She got emotional, never seen a defense attorney pretty much cry or sob or be so emotionally wrought through addressing the court. She didn't have any tears, but it was very labored. Like, you could tell she was holding back tears the entire time. Brian Steele, Mark Agnifilo, Xavier Donaldson, like, he's got a big team of attorneys, and you can tell this is kind of like a family environment in the courtrooms. So when the verdict was read, they responded in kind, like a family would. His defense team and his children, you know, he just walked out. He didn't really address them after court like he typically does. He said something to his mother and he left.
Right before the sentencing, Diddy, his family, and even some inmates from the prison that Diddy is being held in submitted letters in support of his release. Allegedly, 15 different inmates all vouched for Diddy and said that he had been a positive influence on them. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really trust what an inmate has to say about a billionaire being charged with assault.
Prosecutors are asking for a substantial sentence of just over 11 years, writing it's needed because Combs is unrepentant, that he largely conceded his conduct, the violence, domestic abuse, drug use, and distribution, and bribery. Former girlfriend Cassie Ventura, who testified at trial, submitted a victim impact letter that reads in part, quote, "My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality." She says they moved, and she is, quote, "keeping as private and quiet as I possibly can because I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up about his abuse at trial." We spoke with attorney Rich Schoenstein, who is not involved in the case. Combs has no prior criminal history, and the U.S. Probation Department recommends a sentence range of 5 to 7 years.
I think that's probably the right range. I don't think he's going to get a short sentence like the defense wants, and I also don't think he's going to get the maximum. So I think that middle ground is where most people expect us to go, but we will see. It's up to the judge.
Diddy's lawyers have announced that they're planning to appeal this decision and get this case thrown out altogether. But let's not forget the mountain of evidence against Diddy. Diddy's sentence is well within the federal guidelines, and according to most other lawyers, it's surprising that Diddy didn't receive a longer sentence.
Out of New York City, we are hearing Diddy's attorneys speaking to the media after he was sentenced earlier today. This is live.
Yeah, we are planning to appeal.
Man, I want to hear them, bro.
We are planning to appeal. We think we have strong bases to appeal.
Yeah.
The strongest basis is that the jury reached a verdict on coercion. It found there was not coercion, and I think the judge said coercion today as a basis for a sentence at least a dozen times. We think that that is unconstitutional. We think that a jury verdict should mean more than our jury's verdict seems to mean, and so we are planning to appeal.
Absolutely. Filed a cross appeal. What would happen in that regard if they filed a cross appeal and then could Sean Diddy Combs get a higher sentence?
He would not get a higher sentence, and they're not gonna cross appeal. We're gonna appeal. We think we're right, and they'll respond to the appeal, and it'll be decided by the Second Circuit as soon as.
Tell us about the conversation you had with your client after the sentencing. Consensual. The judge clearly thought the sexual encounters weren't consensual.
Because he's biased.
What did you make of his remarks?
He's biased.
If anyone, I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking. There was no racketeering. Everything was consensual. Everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror,
yes,
one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict.
Well, at least the judge was open-minded.
Judge Mathis gave his thoughts on the situation too and said that he was shocked that Diddy got out so easily. Even the judge said that Diddy should treat this as a second chance. During the sentencing, the judge said, "You abused the power and control you had over the lives of women you professed to love dearly. Why did it go on so long? Because you had the power and resources to keep it going."
You said the judge is going to look at everything else that came out in that courtroom, and the sentencing will be related to that. So you were right. Were you surprised at the 50 months?
Well, I was surprised it wasn't more, quite frankly. Based on the prosecutors wanted 11 years. The judge, as we know, said he would be considering things outside of the conviction. And so and wouldn't give him $1 million bond, or I think later he offered $50 million, and you wouldn't give him a bond. So no, I thought he was gonna bring the hammer down a little harder. But 5 years is 5 years, 4 years and 2 months rather.
Right, because there is 14 months time served. So you're looking at about maybe 3 years?
Yes.
3 years. Now, what they're saying, I don't know if this is true or not. What's that?
The 1 year off, or 1.4, I'm sorry, year and 4 months, as you just said.
Exactly, yeah. 14 months of time served. So, but if he qualifies for the RDAP program, which is a residential drug abuse program, he could potentially get like 6 months off, maybe a little bit more off, some halfway house situations. Do you think that that'll happen and he'll get out maybe a year and a half?
It's interesting that you would mention that, first of all, because that's why I think, as great as his defense team was, Diddy, I think they missed the boat on his mental illness as an appeal to the judge's compassion and understanding. He admitted earlier that he was bipolar, so you need to lean into that, because bipolar is exactly the behavior he exhibited. Uncontrollable rage, mood swings, mania, hypersexuality is even a part of bipolarism. And that requires treatment. You can't counsel that out. So that's a chemical imbalance. He needs medication. I hope he is. But he should have leaned into that with his sentencing. Yeah, I'm a good guy, et cetera, et cetera. And that wasn't me. Those things you saw wasn't me. That is a result of a mental disorder that I am being treated for now, and I'm being medicated for it. Now, if you were too ashamed or didn't want the stigma of medication, and instead you wanted to rely on the judge's mercy, that's the chance you took. But I would have leaned into that. And as such, the sentence should have also included it. The judge should have required him to obtain treatment as part of his sentence, meaning you don't come home unless you abide by the treatment circumstances that I've ordered. If it's, you must have a doctor that you must see every week, or you must be medicated every week. Judge didn't do that, and that's one of the things I don't like about judges when they sentence. They just throw the book at you, no rehabilitation expected, no requirements for education. I was required to get a GED. Changed my life.
One user on X wrote, after terrorizing, abusing, and violating women and men for 90 years, Diddy getting 4 years is an absolute disgrace. Another person said, IDK Diddy getting just 4 years in prison ain't enough for me. He spent 20 plus years terrorizing people. He deserved way more time than that. Yesterday was the first time since the start of the case that Diddy actually spoke in court. During his speech, Diddy sobbed and apologized to everyone that he had hurt, saying that he had changed and was ready to be a better man. Despite his emotional apology, no one in the courtroom was convinced. He didn't show Cassie any mercy, so why should he deserve some now? Diddy's tears were nothing more than a calculated move to gain sympathy before sentencing.
On the eve of his sentencing, Sean Diddy Combs, the fallen music mogul, writing a federal judge pleading for mercy. He writes in part, I have to admit, my downfall was rooted in my selfishness. He apologized to 2 of the women who accused him of abuse, including Cassie Ventura, who he assaulted. This as prosecutors are asking for an 11-year prison sentence for Combs after he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Laura Jarrett joins us now live in studio. Laura, you have the letter right there, and he makes it very clear he's asking the judge to be let go to his family right now.
Tom, it's a pretty striking letter. Combs, in his own words, saying he realizes he's in a situation where no amount of money or fame can save him. He writes this, I have been humbled and broken to my core. Jail is designed to break you. There have been some days I thought I would be better off dead. He goes on to say, Tom, that he lost everything from his businesses to time with his children. He's a single father. He also apologizes, notably, to the women who prosecutors say he abused. He says that video, that infamous video of him abusing Cassie, plays over in his head daily. I literally lost my mind. He says he's a changed man. He says he's sober for the first time in 25 years. He will have an opportunity to address the court there tomorrow. Remember, of course, his lawyers are asking for just 14 months. Prosecutors asking for far greater, 11 years behind bars. He was acquitted of the charges, though, of course, that could have kept him behind bars for the rest of his life.
If anything, Diddy should be happy that he only got 4 years. With time served, that's more like 2 years. 2 years in prison for the kind of crimes that he was doing is nothing. If Diddy really was ashamed of his actions, why would he be engaging in freak-offs, even on the day of his arrest after the raids at his mansion? Diddy is lucky he only got 4 years.
It is exactly what I said on my show. I said, Diddy gonna end up doing 24 months in prison. The judge gave him 50 months, but you gotta realize he already had 14 months in it, practically. And he's going to get credit for 2 months of that 14 months. That give him 16 months. He's gonna do 24 months, which is gonna give him about 30 months, because he only had to do 85% in the feds, and he goes to probably a halfway house. So he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory. But for a dude like Diddy going to jail and spending all that time, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be rough or nothing like that, because his former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burrows, with the federal jail. You understand? Lil' Kim with the federal jail. So, you know, because the type of dude he is, you know, he'll make it, he'll be all right. And plus they're going to send him to a camp, bruh. He'll be in somebody's camp or somebody's dormitory, whereas that it'll be real light for him. So, you know, he'll see the streets back again in 24 months. He'll be out within 2 years. It seems like a lot saying 50 months and everything like that, but it's not really a lot, not at all, bro. It's not a lot at all. You know what I'm saying? I know for executive, somebody who's been a jet setter, somebody who's been going all around the world, been in all kind of, you know, stadiums, galas, and living in mansions. You know, it's a lot of people who lived in mansions that's in federal jail. You know, you got Senator Melendez from Jersey in jail. You got a lot of them in jail doing way more time than him. You know what I'm saying? So he'll be all right, man. I think that, you know, he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory, bro. You know what I'm saying?
One of the witnesses in Diddy's trial who Diddy paid to engage in lewd acts with Cassie said that this sentence feels like closure. Diddy's victims deserve better than this. According to the victims, while nothing can undo what happened, this sentence at least acknowledges the truth that Diddy tried so hard to silence.
This has been a huge part of my life also, you know, in terms of the way it changed things and influenced stuff. And I think for me, it's almost like a form of closure. I understand everything was just the truth. It was just the truth. I didn't deviate from anything that happened. And the only thing that's different now is as time moves on, I didn't realize how impactful my testimony ended up being. You know, a lot of people have said that my testimony could have been very influential in him getting acquitted and stopping the sex and at least the RICO charges. So just understanding that I might have been that impactful is just been kind of like a wow moment. I'm really hoping for time served. And the reason why I'm hoping for that is, even with my testimony, walking out of the trial, I said, well, this is my isolated experience. But for some odd reason, a lot of the male sex workers started reaching out to me. And this was very candid conversations, one-on-one and stuff. And every single one of them had the same experience I had.
The jurors who actually saw the evidence that was presented in court all agree that Diddy's sentence is more than fair. TMZ obtained the video Diddy played at his trial to try and convince the judge to forgive him, and let's just say that it didn't really work in his favor. Almost everyone in the courtroom agreed that the video just made Diddy look more shady, especially since he later admitted that he was under the influence of drugs during the whole time he was with his kids. According to Diddy, this is the first time in 25 years that he has been completely sober. Diddy's time behind bars isn't going to be easy. He's now going to be moved to a federal prison, and that's where his problems are really going to start. Women beaters don't last long in prison, and that's probably what Diddy is most scared of. Diddy's ego is what led to his downfall. What do you think? Does Diddy deserve a second chance? Or is this sentence just the beginning of what's to come? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to stay updated on everything happening in this case, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next.